Hi, I'm Reverend Jake Zabe, and welcome to Children's Bible Stories. Alright children, for our Bible story today we're going to do the story of Jacob stealing Esau's blessing. So now Isaac was getting old and his sight was mostly gone, he could barely see. And one day he was feeling really sick and he thought he was going to die. Now we know from scripture that Isaac lives like another 20 plus years, so he obviously didn't die at this point, but at this moment he thought he was going to die. And so he called in Esau and said, "Esau, my son, I'm about to die. Before I die, I want to bless you. But before I bless you, can you please make for me my favorite meal? So grab your bow and go out and hunt down some wild game and bring it back and prepare a meal for me and I will bless you." And so with that, Esau ran away. Now Rebekah overheard this and she quick called to Jacob and said, "Jacob, come here." Jacob came and she said, "Your father is about to give the blessing to Esau and not to you. Quick, we're going to fix that. Grab me a young goat. We're going to kill him." So they took the goat and they killed him. And they turned him into a nice, yummy stew. And she says, "Now take it to your father and feed him, saying that you are Esau, and he'll give you the blessing." And Jacob said, "But mother, my brother Esau is a hairy man. What if Dad touches me? He'll realize that I'm not hairy and that I'm not Esau, and he'll find out that I'm trying to trick him." And so Rebekah took the skin from the goat and she lay some on Jacob's forearms and on the back of his neck. And so now Jacob both smelt and felt like Esau. So Jacob went into his father and he says, "Father, it is I." And Isaac said, "Who's there?" And he says, "It's me, your favorite son Esau. I've got that stew you wanted." And Isaac said, wait a minute. You can't be Esau. How'd you get back so quickly?" And Jacob said, "The Lord blessed me today and made my hunt really easy." And then Jacob came over to give him the stew. And Isaac said, "I don't know. You sound like you're Jacob. You sure you're not Jacob trying to trick me?" And as Jacob came over, Isaac sniffed him and touched the back of his neck. And he said, "Yes, you sound like Jacob, but you smell like Esau, and you feel like Esau, so you must be Esau." And so, in that moment, Isaac gave Jacob the blessing. He said, "May God give you the dew of heaven, and of the fatness of the earth, and plenty of grain and wine. Let the peoples serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's son bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be everyone who blesses you." And what is important about that blessing, children, is that promise about being blessed and cursed is the same promise that God had given to Abraham. And so this blessing of Isaac wasn't just an ordinary blessing. This was a passing of the Abrahamic blessing. That God had chosen Abraham to be the chosen people from which the Messiah would come, to be God's people. And this blessing had been passed from Abraham to Isaac, and now Isaac was passing it to Jacob, but not Esau. And so we discussed this in previous videos, that Esau by birthright was meant to receive this blessing. But God had already promised Rebekah when she was pregnant that the promise would not go to the elder son, but to the younger son. And then previously, when Isaac had been out hunting and had been hungry, he had sold his promise, his birthright blessing, to Jacob for a bowl of stew. And so, while what Jacob and Rebekah did was sneaky and underhanded and were tricking Isaac and stealing from Esau, Rebekah was doing what God had already promised her would happen, and Jacob was doing what Esau had promised him. Esau had sold his birthright to Jacob. And so, when Isaac had called Esau to come in to receive the blessing, Esau should have said, well, actually, Father, I'd already sold that to Jacob, so you should give it to him instead. Instead, Esau fully intended to still take the blessing. And so he had sold the blessing and was still hoping to get the blessing. So yes, maybe Jacob had tricked Isaac, but he was just getting what was rightfully his. And so after this, Jacob left, and Esau came running in and said, Father! And Isaac said, who's there? And he said, it's me, your son, Esau. I went out hunting. I got that food for you. And then Isaac's like, well, hold on. No, you came earlier. And Isaac said, that wasn't me. And at that moment, Isaac realized, oh no. Jacob's tricked me and stolen your blessing. And Esau said, Father, can't you just give me another blessing? And Isaac said, no, I cannot give you another blessing. Instead, I must speak to you these words. Not really a curse, but more of a kind of warning to Esau as to what would happen. He said, behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall be your dwelling, away from the dew of heaven. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother, and when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck. So in other words, he says, you won't be blessed. You won't receive the promised land of Israel. And you won't receive the promise of the Messiah from on high. Instead, you and your children will be a warrior race. You shall live by the sword. You shall be a violent people, seeking only worldly wealth. And you will serve your brother. Your brother will rule over you, but then you'll become restless and you will break off his yoke. And this would happen in the future. Eventually, Jacob's descendants would become the Israelites, and Esau's descendants would become the Edomites. And when King David became king over Israel, the Edomites would be subjugated and would have to serve the Israelites. But later, under the rule of David's descendants, the Edomites would rebel and gain their independence from Israel. And Esau was very angry at Jacob, and he vowed to kill him. And so he stormed off, I'm going to kill that Jacob. And so Rebekah, having heard all of this, came to Jacob and says, your brother Esau seeks to kill you. You need to run off to the land of Haran and live with my brother Laban, your uncle. And so Jacob fled to Haran to go live with his uncle Laban until Esau was no longer mad at him. And that's our Bible story for today, children. I've been your host, Reverend Jake Zabel. Goodbye and God bless.